booked 7 calls this week so far, but last week you booked 27. Right. So you're not just today, and everything's going to go up and down. And I did a little reframing with a guy just the other day around this. And so what other tools do you use to kind of get people refocused on the productivity side?
Yeah, so one of the things is knowing what motivates them, right? Whether that's intrinsic stuff or extrinsic stuff, right? Intrinsic being, their own competitiveness or um, drive to win, and then external, of course, is cash or something else, right? And it's achieving a goal, it's buying a house, it's putting food on the table for the family, whatever that is. And I always like to understand my people and understand what drives them and what motivates them. And then when they're lacking in productivity, always just, as you say, reframe. I guess it would be a reframe in a sense, but like step back, look at things from a perspective of, are you in line to hit those goals that we talked about for the past 2 months or 3 months or a year? And no, I mean, not if you keep doing things this way, right? So let's bring it back together. Let's put a new plan of action in here, and let's forget about what happened last week and move forward in a better way. And I find that internal motivations, whether they be extrinsic or intrinsic, are so valuable to get people to do things, right? Whatever those things are. So if it's productivity, good chance that, if it's a lack of productivity, it's either problem with technology, perhaps, maybe lack of understanding their day too, which I've seen many times, salespeople not knowing how to structure their day and doing things off key, right? Maybe doing things backwards, maybe doing calls in the afternoon and, sitting around, doing whatever in the morning. And that's obviously an issue that has to be worked out from a productivity perspective. It could involve training. It could involve some type of technology that helps them schedule things. Or, like I said, it could be just sitting down with them and talking about their goals and how they really need to focus if they want to achieve them. And I find that it's generally one of those elements that helps me get them back on track.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's just so much to go off of there. Like when I look at modern sales processes, one of the things that I focus on is how do I keep my people in a single window on my CRM, which for us is our task menu on HubSpot, and they can hit start because I know now programmatically I can put their daily method of operations and best way of going about things right into their tasking menus. So this should be a call, this should be an email, this should be a text, this should be a LinkedIn message, this should be this. And we're using sequencing based pairs to run people through. But this also allows salespeople not to have to do brain work in the middle of function work. And they're very separate. Like Julio and I, you know this, like when we spend a day and we're in strategy meeting after strategy meeting, we're so tired, right? You can only handle so much strategy and you're like zonked. Like I've even put buffers in my calendar. Somehow they don't get respected. I don't understand how, but I try to put 15 minutes in between meetings because my brain has to like re-go, right? It gets harder, especially as I get older here to do that. So what we're trying to do with task menu is put systematic thinking and function thinking separate. And when they're in function and in rhythm, they spend their day in that task menu. And that's where that sales automation really comes in. And a great system can support it and great AI can support it. Is function, right? Function, function, function. And if they can stay in that zone, you can get 6 good hours, 7 good hours of a salesperson in that one zone. And then they can do their strategic reach outs on LinkedIn or whatever else outside of that time, that prospecting mode stuff, because that takes a lot more brain work and individually adjusting. But if you keep them in with that automation and good intelligence, it's just one function window. And I find that that's the most massive increase to productivity because you can go from like 50 tasks a day to 200 tasks a day per salesperson if you schedule your programming right. And it's got great tracking, and you can see the trends and make adjustments as sales manager and have leading and lagging indicators and now be on point where you want to go. And hey, if you guys like that, throw some comments out, throw some likes. I know that this might be recorded, but that's okay. And you can ask us some questions about, what you're using. It might not be HubSpot, it might be Salesforce, it might be Keep, it might be Zoho, it might be a million different programs. But ask your questions about how you're functioning within it, how you're keeping your salespeople in a single window. because as soon as they start strategizing, they start losing function. As soon as they start losing function, they lose fitness. As soon as they start losing fitness, you start losing business. And that is the key to everything, is how much revenue can you drive as the business owner. Revenue and profit margin and quality are the three things we think about, right? So, Julia, with that being said, do you have any kind of closing comments you want to throw out there about automation and productivity that have stood top of mind for you? I know you've been using, maybe we end this with a little AI piece. And as I know, we got webinars coming up with very interesting people and stuff like that we're going to be releasing to you guys. But why don't you talk a little bit about how that's assisting you in your productivity?
Yeah, well, there's a number of different technologies or AIs that I'm using currently for productivity. Well, first of all, let me start with just a quick analogy, right? I remember like being a kid and hearing a story that was, okay, if you had to send out 500 envelopes, right? Mail, which way would be faster? If you sat there and just stuffed each envelope, folded the paper, stuffed each envelope, and then kept going? Or if you folded each paper, forgot about the envelopes, folded the papers up all together, and then later just put them one by one in the envelopes? Which one would be quicker? And the answer is, well, I mean, when you're doing the batch tasks, right? When you're doing the folding of the papers and then you go over and stuff them in envelopes, not doing a paper envelope. What that does is, as you mentioned, you're cross correlating two different like elements there that shouldn't be, versus batching your tasks. So I think that's a really big and an important point for productivity is like, don't jump around what you're doing. Make sure you block a time off and then focus on that. And then you get into what's called focus time. And that's where you start to see real productivity. But if you never have focus time and you're always, kind of surface level, then you're not going to be productive, right? So that's the first piece. And then the second piece, what technology am I using? Yeah, a ton of stuff, right? I mean, for example, I am using an email reply, AI email replier, which allows me to quickly and easily like go through my inbox and it generates a couple different replies that I can use per the message, which matches the tone. That's a good one. I'm using a variety of different like chat GPT bots. As well, which are trained in different things. So whether it is like sales methodologies and strategies, or marketing, etc. So that way, when I'm doing those types of tasks that require, I don't know, I would say a lot of time, this saves me a ton, right? I think anybody knows that ChatGPT can save you tons of time when it comes to content. However, you got to put some human touch on it too. Just to put that out there, do not just keep pushing out chat GPT stuff. I can see it a mile away with those emojis, and it's not cool. It's not human, and you're not going to see much engagement on it. And I think soon they'll be looking into that very, very heavily, right? And then on the sales side, right? I mean, we have automated lead scoring, right? We have things that are happening and telling us what those leads are doing, and essentially whether they're hitting a threshold there, which we think that would set them at a place where we should reach out and buy. And then, looking at a lot of other things too, right? A lot of other things that'll help the sales process as well, and help productivity and just take away the time. And I think you and I talked about this like a couple weeks ago when we talked about sales managers and them being maybe at risk, or at least certain kinds of them, because of AI. And I think, yeah, that still holds true a couple weeks later. And it'll be interesting to see what happens there.
Yeah, exciting times. As we were talking about AI and the rodeo that is, but sales automation, just remember, it's just to enable your people to go faster and at the same time provide a higher quality experience from a buying experience to the customer and give you good quality data as a manager. And if you can get those three things lined up, your sales force goes faster. And everything else is a lot of conjecture and nonsense. It's really easy to do if you have HubSpot, if you have Salesforce, if you have one of these modern CRMs, you can do a lot. You can, it's right at your fingertips, and it just takes time to program and do, and you need some know-how. But you're steps away from building a multi million dollar business, and increase in your multi-million dollar business if you're listening and you're already there, that you've never seen before, by adding these simplistic things that have all these smart people have spent countless hours building in to make available to you, right? And sometimes it's like, I imagine like walking into an armory as a person, and we if you've ever been in Men in Black, the little pea shooter or whatever, they grab, instead of like grabbing a spaceship off the wall or whatever's there. And that's what people are doing nowadays. They have this like arsenal in front of them and they're not using anything. They're using the smallest thing available. So
Thanks for watching, and keep removing those revenue roadblocks. If you want more videos like this, follow our channel for fresh, new content every day. Check out our RevOps playlist, or how about this video chosen just for you? See you next time.